حظ عاثر، أطفالك أنت ونعش. الباب موصد من الخارج، الأمم المتحدة، المنظمات الإنسانية ووسائل الإعلام تخمد النيران بقش. I'm Saba HAMZAH. I come from Yemen and the Netherlands, and I'm a poet, scholar, and educator. I would love to say, as Maya Angelou said, I come from nowhere and I own everywhere, or as Mahmoud Darwish said, all the people's hearts are my nationality. But unfortunately, such a world, we come from specific locations and nations. I wouldn't say what is the best or what is the worst. Maybe I would say what inspires me and what challenges me. I will start with what inspires me the most. If in the Netherlands or in Yemen at the same time, the people's stories, everyday life, coming from the bottom, everyday living stories and challenges of people. That's what inspires me the most. What challenges me is the boundaries and the limitations in any place where I go. It's not specifically in one location. I thought in the past that it has to be with Yemen. Like when I was in Yemen, oh, those challenges are here because I'm here. But then moving around the world and living in so many different countries, I learned that wherever I go, there will be limitations, there will be boundaries, and there will be red lines where like I can't really cross them. And that's the best challenge when I'm writing anything. I think it worked both sides, that my education background shaped my writing and my writing shaped also my education background. I did English education and literature, which is basically linguistics. So I do pay more attention to the words and what they mean and in their context. And when writing, this is the most important thing for a writer, is how to use the word and what each word means in the context or in the text that you're writing. And also the way I write and the subjects that I write about, because I focus more on women, on oppression and power relations, directed me to do gender studies. So when I moved in the Netherlands, I did master's in gender studies. And it was a bit challenging for me because I don't come from one particular discipline, if we could say. The subject leads me to the discipline and not otherwise. So I write and I go, for example, I look into philosophy, I go to literature, I go to politics. So it's not one discipline that is shaping the way I'm writing, but otherwise. I love writing. It's been my sanctuary since I was a little kid. I enjoy every little bit of it. Any process of writing is a piece of joy for me, even if I'm writing about pain, about anger, about difficult emotions or difficult times. Writing in itself is something that I've always enjoyed. What would be the difficulty is the interruption, either the literal interruption when someone comes and interrupt me while writing, or interruption because of difficult situations that are arising or happening either to me in person or in the world around us. My first language is Arabic. I learned English when I was 18 years old, and after that. So it's my second language, but I loved to write in English because I thought by writing in English that I was pushing some of the boundaries and limitations that I couldn't push when writing in Arabic. I wanted to address audience that would not maybe judge me in writing in a specific way. So language in itself also was a sanctuary, not only the writing process. And then moving outside Yemen and also noticing that what I thought was limited to one specific geography was not the case. It was all over the place. There are a lot of limitations, a lot of boundaries, a lot of oppression all over the world, even when I was in places where I thought I have the freedom of speech. And then I had to go back to Arabic and write also in Arabic, because then I was challenging other geographies and other languages. But it's not about only challenging, but it's also falling in love with the language. I lived in some places where I didn't fall in love with the languages, But moving to the Netherlands, I fell in love with Dutch language, and I learned it very quickly. I'm not advanced in it at all. I'm intermediate, I would say. But I like to write also in this language, and I insert some sentences and some phrases in the writing process because of my love to the language, and also because I want to address the audience that I'm living among. And some of them, or the most important audience, are my kids. I'm a poet. I identify as a poet, a scholar, because moving to the West, somehow I had to identify in a specific like discipline. So I was like, I'm not a poet, I'm not a scholar, I'm all of them together. But I like to say that I'm a poet as well, because I loved poetry when I was a kid, and that's thanks to Badr Shakra Sayyab, Iraqi poet, who wrote wonderful pieces and who also challenged the traditional way of writing Arabic poetry. And in school, I was reading the traditional Arabic, and I didn't really like it as a kid. I do appreciate it a lot now, but as a kid, it didn't mean a lot to me. But reading for Badr Shakra Sayyab, I fell in love with him since I was in 6th grade. And I read most of his poetry, and that's what I think shaped the way I'm writing, also how I'm interacting with the world. I also read a lot for different poets and different writers from the Arab world, also from America. I'm inspired by a lot of Black writers like Bill Hooks and others. One of the writers, also Yemeni writer Abdullah al-Baraduni, he's one of the prominent writers in the Arab world. Maybe he's not very well known to the West because he's not being translated a lot. But I love his poetry and the way he writes. And I think I come from this school of Abdullah al-Baraduni, Badr Shakra Sayyab, Mahmoud Darwish, and others. Yes, I definitely I agree that each state has to devote time and money, like and finance for supporting artists and writers, because those who are pushing for change, of course, it's not what usually the states want, but I think it should be supporting not individuals, but as a sector. So we have a sector, for example, like industry or like farming, culture or agriculture, and yeah, it should be supported in this manner from top to bottom and also from bottom to up. I came here with a project that I wanted to write. I thought this is the best time to work on it, which is motherhood. I thought I would devote these 3 months to just sit and write. But given the fact that we have a lot of events that I wanted to participate and I didn't want to miss also attending my colleague writers in their events, I had to give up the idea because I need really to isolate myself if I want to write about this subject. At some moment I thought, okay, I'm not writing anything, but coming into this stage, which is the last week of the fellowship, I actually wrote a lot of poems, collection of poems, especially the last 2 weeks, and most of them are also in Arabic. The first impression about Iowa City was like, oh, wow, that's just like the Netherlands. It's so flat, a lot of water, a lot of trees. But after a lot of observation, and I'm a person who observes the surroundings and the spaces where I live and where I stay, and I think this has to do with me, who is living in diaspora and in exile for so long now. I do notice about what's going around in the spaces. And one of the things that really surprised me is how big is the city, how many spaces that I felt they were so empty, but at the same time, there are a lot of homeless people around. And it shocked me because I thought it's the United States, like, and especially Iowa City. It's not like New York or like Washington, where you would maybe see this and people wouldn't know about each other. But it's a big city, but also small in a sense. I see people that I know them now already. And I know that that's the homeless that I met in the other place. That's really shocking for me. I'm usually asked like why you are writing about these subjects. And I would love not to be asked this question, or even to have the opportunity not to write about these things and to look into other things and write about them. But every time I give myself the permission not to write, not to follow, and not to fall into this, reality that is what we are living in. And when I see we, the people who are coming from the globe of majority or from the global south, that we have to struggle, we have to explain, we have to educate, we have and no space for enjoying, as some other people who would enjoy and would ask me this question, why struggle? Why write about these things? I would love to stop hearing this question. What I would love to say at this difficult time that we are going through, the last 2 weeks have been really, 3 weeks actually, have been really difficult for me. I've been really struggling how to interact with everyone in the group, how to hide also emotions, and at the same time, how to bring the issue into my fellow writers, but also into the world where I saw and I noticed there is a lot of hypocrisy about what is happening in Palestine for our sisters and brothers there. I lost contact yesterday with our fellow writers who couldn't make it into the fellowship. Yusri Al-Ghul, who was supposed to be here with us, and he couldn't. He is from Gaza. And I wish that the world see what is happening there, where there are still people living, and not when it's a diminished area and when we lose people because what's happening there is genocide. And then we talk about them as a history, like as we have been doing with so many nations, like with the Native Americans or with a lot of colonies in that. Yeah, that's had been happening. So I wish peace and justice to the people in Palestine and all over the world. I would just add that thank you for the program, for the organizers, and for the opportunity. And I would love to see more writers and more space for writing.